Hi, this is Jenny Williams, and thanks for joining us for 60 Minutes to Six Figures today. I know we are 2 minutes behind, and we always have a good reason. So thanks for waiting a little while to listen to this awesome information that we've got in store for you today. As a real estate coach, I get asked all the time, what is LinkedIn for? Aren't we supposed to just have a profile there? I mean, you don't really get business from it, right? So I'm really excited to bring with you to you today the information that Brian's going to share on 4 different ways that you can actually generate leads in business, working your contacts and farming. So I know I'm going to learn a lot today. Brian, welcome. Did he
How's it going, man? Yeah, can you hear us, Brian?
Thank you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We I think we just had a little bit of a delay there. That's all right. So this is Brian Traichel. I met Brian at an event here in San Diego. He was speaking in front of a young mortgage professionals group, and I was blown away by the information that he shared. So I hooked him and Jenny up, and we decided to bring him on to the show. If you guys are looking at and watching the show live here on Google+, you can actually ask questions. So if you type them in as a comment right below this video, I will bring them to Jenny and Brian. We'll get your question answered live on the show. You can also use that little, if you can see it depending on the device that you're looking at, there may be like a Q&A app that you can use. I'll keep my eye on both of those things. And then if you want to if you friend request me on Facebook, it's facebook.com/pursuingresults. You can actually message me on Facebook during the show. That's another good way to get a question into us. So any of those ways, I will bring the information. But first of all, Brian, you want to give us a little bit of your background, because it's really interesting, who you used to work for and kind of how you got into this whole LinkedIn and the sales training game.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I first discovered LinkedIn in 2004, and I was working as a title insurance representative. So my industry was real estate, mortgage, escrow, title, notary, that type of thing. So I started seeing LinkedIn as a new way to start connecting with people, but it hadn't really caught on yet. The social media boom hadn't really happened yet. So I kind of landed on deaf ears when I was telling people it's a great tool. So here we are, 12 years later, 14 years later almost, and people are catching on to it. So my background is I've always been in sales. So I've always been either a sales rep, account manager, account executive, or a sales manager, and I found that by using LinkedIn, I've been able to break down a lot of walls a lot faster, because the old way of selling, we'd have to learn little tidbits about our customers, and that would take time. Maybe it'd be 5 minutes here, and another month went by, I learned more information. Now I can learn all the information in 5 minutes. So it definitely makes the process a lot faster. But my background, once I left the title insurance business, I ended up going into the motivational speaking industry, where I had an opportunity to work with Brian Tracy for 3 years as his director of business development. And from there, I went on to work with other author speakers. So I spent a lot of time in the author speaker space. And then once I went through that 2.0 version of myself, I decided to go out on my own and be an independent sales trainer. So that's the real quick cliff notes. However, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you can read all the details there.
Very smart. So can I ask you, I'm a huge Brian Tracy fan, have been since I was probably a teenager. Have been reading anything I could from Brian, and so that's fascinating that you got to work with Brian. That's great.
Yeah, and not only that, was the reason I got the job was because I reached out to Brian on LinkedIn. That's why I'm such a proponent for it. Yeah, that's the true story. Yeah, that's how I got the job, is because I messaged.
Awesome.
So I can go on and on about success stories. But I used to listen to Brian when we had audio tapes, Psychology of Selling, Psychology of Success, and I go, one of these days I'm gonna work for him. I go, I think he's great, and he lives in California, San Diego, which is where I am. It was a natural fit. I reached out on LinkedIn. 2 weeks later, I was in his office, and then a week later, I ended up working for him for 3 years. So it's one of my favorite stories. It was a great experience.
That is, like, I can't get better than that already. You've already talked
so it works.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let me run through just real quick the top 4 things that we want to cover today. So number 1 is the profile quality. And then we've got endorsements, and you've got, Brian, a killer way to kind of make that part of your follow-up program, which is awesome. You actually did it to me, and then I in turn did it to you, which was fun.
Right.
So then we've got LinkedIn groups. That is super, super interesting. I've been doing some research on that since I met you, Brian, and that looks really, really interesting. And then you've got recommendations. And we can also talk about the ideal client profile, because that's something that, Jenny, we've talked about this before with your finding your unique edge. Once you know what that is, once you know what your unique edge is and who your ideal client is, Brian can show you exactly how to retarget them, find them on LinkedIn, and reach out to them in an authentic way. So there's a ton of stuff to get into. Brian, what's the best place to start? Do you want to start with the kind of the profile and start really at the beginning there?
Well, I think, yeah, absolutely the profile is the number one thing. And the thing people always ask me is, like, they don't know what to do with their LinkedIn profile. They're not sure. It's another thing they have to manage, and they're caught up with so many things. But the one thing I tell people is, well, you have two options. One, you can go in 100%, or two, you can delete your profile. So there is no medium when it comes to LinkedIn. There has to be, you're either in or you're out. The reason is because if you were to search yourself on Google and you don't have a website or any other web presence, your LinkedIn profile is the first contact your customer will have with you. So the question I always ask, which makes people start to sink in their seats, is, based on your current LinkedIn profile, would you do business with yourself if you pulled yourself off the internet? And if you had no picture, 10 connections, no summary, basically a non-existing profile, would you say you're qualified to do the job? And the answer is probably no. And if you say no to yourself, how many other people are looking you up and might be saying that? And the funny thing is, you'll never know that you got turned down for a job that you didn't get because your presence on the internet didn't even allow you to go to the next step. So it's about first impressions when it comes to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I can't stand to see people without their photos when they ask to connect with me. I just automatically think something seedy is going on when they don't have a LinkedIn photo. I mean, that's not very difficult. It's easy to upload.
I mean, even at best, put your company logo in that spot, but don't have the picture image of where it says, this is what he would look like if there was a picture here. So that's not an option, right? So I mean, there's a lot of things. There's 22 sections on the profile. I'm not asking that everybody fill out all 22 sections. I mean, mine's obviously a little bit ridiculous because that's what I focus on. However, everything does have a psychology for being there. And the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of LinkedIn, like anything else. So, but if anything, you want to get your connections up. If you're connected to somebody on Facebook, try and be connected to them on LinkedIn. The magic number is 500 plus. After that, it basically indicates, what it really indicates is that you're a professional. Whether you use LinkedIn or not, it tells me I can trust you because you have a network. And that's really what it's all about. It's about using your network.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think of the stat that I came across the other day was that, 40% of LinkedIn users have over 500 connections, or somewhere around there, and a little bit over that. So if you're below that, you're definitely in the minority. And it basically shows other people that you're just really not using it effectively.
Right. You're not serious.
Yeah, then you're not serious. Exactly.
Well, listen, if you were the top selling agent in your neighborhood, but you were too busy to be on LinkedIn, you had no picture and 37 connections, and I looked you up online because I was entertaining looking at 3 different agents to interview, I'm going to take you off the list because your network already tells me that you don't know anyone that you can sell my home to. So even having the 500 plus shows people that you have a distribution network to get the word out, whether it's open houses or referrals and things like that. So that number really does come into play. And it's not that hard to get if you really work at it.
Yeah, so I mean, if you had, let's say you just had 10, 20 minutes to sit down with somebody's profile and you said, all right, I'm going to just do the top 3 or 4 things that are going to make the real biggest difference to other people when they look at your profile, what would you help someone with?
Well, the first thing I would do, which doesn't help their profile, but it helps them, is change their privacy settings.
Really?
So I would change the privacy settings to make sure that you are not allowing everybody to look at your connections, because a lot of people have their connections exposed. And if you're dealing in a service-based industry, we've worked years to gain those relationships. If you haven't changed the settings, I can literally go into your network and start data mining your entire database. So
Okay.
that's a setting we'd want to do. You want to go to privacy settings, and then the other thing is, if you're not comfortable with the who's viewed your profile function, I think it's safe to go complete private mode, because if you're not in complete private mode, if you look at someone's profile, it'll let them know that you were doing some research on them. And I don't advise that, especially in real estate, especially if you're going on a listing appointment and 5 minutes before you meet with that client, you decide to go on their LinkedIn profile and they get notified about it. I don't think I would. My level of trust, knowing that you knew we had this appointment and you're looking at me 5 minutes before you meet with me, doesn't make me feel that comfortable.
Right.
So
what's that guy look like again? Where's he from?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go to complete private mode, which means that you can research anybody and you won't leave a trail on the internet.
And I know, Brian, from what we talked about, like you toggle back and forth. But if people are just kind of learning LinkedIn, like just set it to private. That way, then once you get more advanced, then you'll learn kind of when you should turn it off and shut it off. Like when to change those and when to change it back. That's the impression that I got.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So privacy settings and the connections and stuff.
There's a thing about changing your and then profile edits. If you're making any changes to your profile, it will notify your network of every change you make. So you want to unclick that so you're not sharing profile edits. So if I decide to go back under my work history or job history and say, hey, I played soccer in college, everyone on my network gets that notification. You say Brian played soccer in college.
Is that a bad thing necessarily, though, Brian? Because I get those notifiers a lot, and then it makes me go, oh, I didn't know that about them.
Well, to some degree, it can be annoying because you can borderline on that person who's constantly posting on Facebook. So what it means is if you're updating your profile and you commit to sitting down for a couple hours, I would turn it off because every change you make will pepper your audience. So for that, if it's a long sitting, turn it off. If it's for a quick updates, you can turn it back on. Okay. So it's just a safety precaution. Yeah.
I can tell you for me personally, since a lot of people go onto my profile and they're checking me out for whatever reason, mostly to try to sell stuff to my network. But I will never click on anybody's profile now because I don't want them to know that
right.
Now you have the answer to that.
Yes. Another thing too, what you said about your LinkedIn profile coming up. We work with a lot of agents to build their databases and their sphere of influence. And if you use like a Pipple.com or you use Spokio, then the first thing it pulls up is the LinkedIn profile. And so I guess what I'm saying is I see a lot of LinkedIn profiles on those outside resources that you don't think about if you're not there, one, or if you have ignored it for a long time. So those are excellent points about getting hired because you don't know how people are looking you up and where pointing to your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, and one of the things I always say too is, from coming from the Brian Tracy school is, make it easy for your customer to buy from you. So if your LinkedIn contact information is your previous position, the website doesn't work, and there's no phone number, how do you expect LinkedIn to work for you if people can't even get a hold of you? So that's the number one thing, is make sure everything is up to date, accurate, and do a once over. It doesn't take much because once you're done, it literally will sit there for you and do all the work. But the difference between someone complaining that I don't get any leads from LinkedIn, it's like, well, maybe your LinkedIn isn't up to speed. So you have to look at it that way too. There's so many applications for this product, and the good news is it's a free product. You don't even have to pay for LinkedIn unless you want to go on premium service.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about that too at the end because there's I'm interested to get your opinion because I have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I think you mentioned one time that with the methods that you teach, you can pretty much cancel that. So I'm very interested in that. So we'll talk about profile quality and the first things that you would do. There was something that you mentioned when we talked about this before we went on the air. But when you have your name and stuff like that, can you kind of stuff that, like, can you optimize the way that your name or your title or whatever appears so the first thing people see is an actual, I don't want to say a sales message, but an accurate and compelling description of what you do? I've heard people give different opinions on whether you should do that or not. What's your take on that?
Well, I'm more on I think if there's an opportunity to leverage any piece of real estate, especially internet, on the top line for a headline, and you can put in a sales message that wires what you do with your name from a subconscious NLP point of view, I think that is really going to get another click in their top of mind awareness. So the answer to that is I believe you can, but the real answer from LinkedIn is you can't. So that's a gray area. I'm in the gray, and I've done it, so I have the headline in my name, but they do frown upon that, so they might have grandfathered me in, but I know now it's a lot harder to manipulate that data. So
yeah, as far as putting realtor coach Jenny Williams as opposed to Jenny Williams and then realtor coach is like the description or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it, but I do it in different areas, real subtle. But the key thing about LinkedIn is when it searches those words, it searches from the top down. So it's going to start looking for the word real estate literally in the first name block, in the last name, and then it gets to the summary. So the key thing about the summary is you want to put in all your specialties, all the real estate areas you service, all the information that people would be looking for in the summary, not further down in the profile.
So go ahead.
We can talk more about.
Go ahead and put in the neighborhoods that you specialize in specifically.
Yeah, correct. I have a word I use. I call it professional redundancy. So if I was working in real estate and I'm in San Diego, I would say, hi, thanks for finding me on LinkedIn. I am a professional full-time real estate agent that services real estate in the San Diego County area. What I like most about real estate in San Diego is that blank, 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 and then here are the real estate service areas I service, and then I list them all, and I can also list the zip codes. And then I put in, here are my specialties, first-time home buyers, for sale by owners, all of it in the summary. That's going to keyword you right there. Yep. So be as redundant as possible, and then take it back just a notch. But that's going to help you on the keywording. So that's the main part about it. Yeah.
Brian, can I share with you like a huge pet peeve, something I hate?
Sure.
I cannot stand when I get a request to connect from someone who is in the industry, and I'm like, well, I've never met them, but they look pretty interesting based here. Sure, I'll connect with them. And I immediately get a message in my inbox with some sort of offer. Mm-hmm. It pisses me off. Not even, no courting there. Just
I agree.
Right.
I agree. I have
no courting there. Man, I can't at least take a girl out to dinner first. Goodness.
Or hello might be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a PowerPoint of all the people that have done that to me, and it could go for pages, and I just laugh. I'm like, really? And it'd be okay if it was a line or two, but it's literally like this long, and it says like, hey, we don't even know each other, and you're already throwing this stuff at me. I actually remove those people from my list. I mean, after I connect with them, if they do that to me, I don't want them in my network, so I'll remove them.
Right.
Yeah, because Brian, one of your points of this whole thing is that LinkedIn is a great jumping off point for an actual relationship, and that auto message thing is like a horrible way to actually start any real relationship with somebody.
Right, and it's like saying, I'd like to add you to my professional network. It's like, well, LinkedIn put that in for you. It's like you want to connect with me, but yet you don't have 2 seconds to even put in a personal, hi, Jenny, let's connect with real estate agents out at it doesn't really matter what it is, but don't give me the generic. Just say, hi, let's connect. I'd rather have that than the standard. So, be a little personal about it. Because that's the whole point, and that's what everybody, to answer your original question about the perception of LinkedIn, that's what everybody does. They get a connection request, they look you over, they go, sure, why not come on into my network, even though I'm never going to do anything. So we start collecting all these people, and they sit there idle until someone decides that they're sitting on a gold mine, right? And that's the key thing is, like, if you have 500 people in your network, and you're out prospecting every day for new people, wouldn't it make sense to know the first 500 before you leave the house and meet new people when there's 500 that you don't know? Imagine what would happen if I went through 500 people, right?
That's a good one.
Yes.
That's like a little slap right there.
Yeah. A little slap.
But a good one. A good one.
Right. Well, that's where the fun starts to happen, when you realize that these people have already said yes to you, and you have 500 people that said, hey, they wanted to be in your network. They asked you in. You didn't have to go to them. You now are in a power position to reach out to them and begin to cultivate a relationship. And that's where what I call the psychographic profiling starts to come in, where you can start matching your personality with other people in your professional network that eventually, by nature, will give you referrals because you have things in common.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit before we get into some of the other like tactical stuff like endorsements and recommendations and stuff like that. Because this was what was really interesting to me, and how you linked it back to farming. So Brian, you want to share that story?
Well, what can happen, so eventually we get to a point in our career, I think, I speak for myself personally, that we're in a position where we can decide who we want to do business with. I know a lot of us have this mentality that we have to work with everybody even though we don't get along, or we have these problem clients. We're in charge of who we decide we want to work with. And personally, I would rather work with people who I already know that I would be friends with them, I'd invite them over, even if we did business or not. I think that's the best way to have a relationship. So
yeah, agreed.
I started thinking to myself, what would happen if I used that approach on LinkedIn? Well, the past 4.5 years I've been an active yoga practitioner, and I said, well, I'm going to go and look to see how many real estate agents in San Diego actually practice yoga. And it was about 2,600 of them. So I started thinking, well, if there's 2,600 real estate agents that practice yoga, I'm a former title rep with 12 years experience, so I know the business, I know sales training, and not to mention I have a 280-hour yoga certification, so I'm a certified yoga teacher. How hard would it be out of 2,600 people to get 30 people to work with me? And imagine the first phone call that I make to them, which says, hi, I was on LinkedIn. And here's the cool thing, I'm completely transparent. So I was on LinkedIn, I was looking for other real estate professionals that do yoga, and I came across your profile. How long have you been doing yoga? What type of yoga? Where do you practice? All of this stuff, right? And then I would say, well, great, I'm going to be in the neighborhood because I work for XYZ company. I'd love to stop by and introduce myself in person. I never had to say I sold insurance. I never had to say anything. It was an 8-minute to 10-minute phone call with a total stranger, and we got to talk about yoga. And then I said, well, hey, it was really great speaking to you. Do you mind if I send you a connection request? How hard is it for you now to say no to my connection request after we already talked for 10 minutes? And once that happens, I've already created a relationship with you, and then we'll go into our endorsement game, because after that I put you on a drip campaign from that conversation. So it's real natural, authentic, and transparent. And I really am generally talking about things that I like to talk about.
Ingenious.
Oh, thank you. It's great. So I always ask people, if you weren't working today, what would you rather be doing? Because whatever that answer is, that's who your audience is.
That's a great, that's a killer question.
Yeah, if you weren't working today, what would
you answer that question? But it is an excellent question, and like you said, how hard is it for you to find 30 people who might want to do business with you out of that 2,600? And when you find 29 to 30 people, that's your 6-figure year. So
correct.
You can actually do that from LinkedIn in a week.
Yeah, it's so easy. You can, and that's even within your own network. And outside of that, you can start joining groups, and we'll get into these other things. I don't want to, burn too much time on that. But the excitement is that I can find someone in San Diego who's in the real estate industry that likes yoga and also is a Boston Red Sox fan. Do you think they're going to take my call in the middle of the day when I reach out? And it's awkward at first. A lot of people are going to have call reluctance because it's not the norm, because nobody calls anybody off of social media. But you're going to do that. You're going to be that person, and here's the script. Just tell them the truth. You were on LinkedIn. You were bored. You were looking to see if there was any Red Sox fans in San Diego. I found your profile. Per your advice, your phone number was there, so I picked up the phone and I call you, and here we are. So what do you think? How's the season going so far? Up and down, right? You think we're going to make it to the playoffs? I don't know, man. Hey, where'd you go to school? Do you know so-and-so? 10-minute conversation. Well, hey, thanks for checking. I know it's an awkward at first and out of the blue, but do you mind if I send you a connection request too? Once I do that, now I'm building up these relationships based on our baseball team. It's like I said, it's very easy to do. So I'd love to entertain any more questions or go deeper on how to do that. But it's how you search in LinkedIn. If it's in their profile, LinkedIn will find it for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah. So, like, take us just mechanically through that real quick. So, are you using quotation marks, or are you separating things? Like, how do you actually search for something? You know, when you figure out 2 or 3 factors of the type of client that you want to work with, how are you searching for that physically in LinkedIn so that it actually pulls up the kind of people that you want to talk to?
Yeah, I usually start with the geographic area. So we'll use Orange County. So if I was searching for somebody in Orange County, I'm going to type in at the search bar under people. I'm going to search for people, Orange County. Then I'm going to put a comma and then a space. So I even talk it out loud. I go Orange County, comma, space, real estate, comma, space, yoga, enter. And that'll give me my list.
Okay, so if, let's say, I've got a lot of clients who play tennis.
Okay.
So that would be, we could even say, let's not use the county, because we can put the city, right? So let's say Birmingham,
Right, yep.
Birmingham, comma, space, real estate, comma, space, tennis.
Correct.
Okay.
And where'd you go to school?
Where did I go to school?
Yeah, you can add your college or high school to that factor
okay.
too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a huge alumni because, but.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. But anything, it can be anything. It can be a club or anything. So any.
Yeah, like to me, this is an amazing way. If you're in real estate, besides finding potential clients, which you can use this for too, and we'll talk about how this applies to farming, but this is an amazing way to build your referral network of other professionals that service the same type of homeowner clients that you do, that can potentially send you referrals, and you have some other connection point besides just the fact that, hey, we sell to the same people, or we met once at a business networking function that neither one of us wanted to really be at. So this gives you like a completely different way to reach out to them, and a way to find people that you have some common ground with on a personal level. Like I was just looking for like San Diego real estate agents that are also musicians, tons of them. San Diego lawyers who play tennis, tons of them. So if I was a real estate agent now, wanted to meet anybody else in like mortgage, title, insurance, lawyer, financial advisor, whoever that could send me business, I can find people that have my same interests, reach out to them, start a relationship that hopefully turns into a genuine referral relationship. Because you talked about, like, you send them a connection request, then you get them on this endorsement kind of drip plan. We'll talk about that. But then the next step is just, invite them out to a function, or invite them out for a quick cup of coffee or something. Like, you take that relationship as quickly as you can from phone call to meeting up in person, so it's an actual real relationship, right?
Oh,
right,
Brian,
exactly.
you have Matt having so much fun the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, it gets kind of out of control, but it's a lot of fun. Now, like I said, that's the beauty of it. Is like, as you know, being in the industry, the biggest complaint everyone has is, I went into business for myself, but I find myself constantly working. I can never get to the gym. I'm not doing this. Well, if you take a step back and you like to go running, we'll find people around your farm that like to go running. Because the truth is, if I'm running more than a mile, someone might turn to me and say, so you're in real estate, right? Or how's the market going? On that jog, you're going to talk about what you do. So you don't even have to sell yourself. And the more that group grows, the more influence you're going to have in the community. So the excuse is I don't have time to do the things I'd like to do when I'm not working is not true. You can actually blend them together. Wouldn't it be great to actually be running and working at the same time, or hiking and working at the same time? So it depends on what perspective you have, but I would rather be surfing, paddleboarding, or doing yoga with a potential client than going to networking functions for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, try it out. You'll see how many results you get. Now the other thing I want to add to this, which I think, Jenny, you'll find to be a really good tip, is that when you're farming an area, you might be farming 300 homes, right? Or 100 condos, or whatever the case may be. A lot of agents may be farming the same neighborhood for years and years and years. Well, imagine if you took that list of 300 people and you manually inputted them on LinkedIn. What you're going to find is 60 to 70% of those people in your farm now are going to have faces and identities and jobs. You'll actually know who lives behind the doors in your farm.
Jenny.
So if you were going to go,
square of you in the corner, going, I love that. Yeah, that's funny.
I'm sorry, Brian. You got me all excited.
If you want to, why would you go door knocking to cold doors if I knew ahead of time that Matt was behind door number 1 and he was a musician, and I had a home for sale that actually had a recording studio, or maybe he knew other musicians. But I could go to the door and say, as a professional, for my safety and for your safety, I always go on LinkedIn before I leave the house, and I knew I was going to be in your neighborhood today. So I took the liberty of going online. I found your profile, and I knew once coming up to the door that we was going to have a great relationship because you went to, you're a former Navy, graduate of the Naval Academy. It doesn't matter, but you know who's, if they're a teacher, an engineer, an attorney. It's no longer, do you know anyone buying or selling? Did you know we just listed a property down the street from you? You don't have to use the basic scripts anymore. You can actually identify with the person. And some people, it happens all the time. Someone's like, Brian, you're a stalker. And I'm like, you're not a stalker if you're doing due diligence and research that was online that people put out there for you to read. If they didn't want to put it out there, then don't put it out there, right?
Yes.
And I'm being transparent. I'm not being manipulative. I'm not pretending I like yoga because I know you do. I have to be authentic, because if we're not authentic, that's going to come through energetically anyways. So
right,
there's no reason to hide it, right? So the key thing is, though, you can actually understand who's in your farm area. But not only that, if you sign people in at your open house guest register, have them walk around the house, look them up on LinkedIn. You'll find out who's in your home, right? And you might find out that they like gardening, they like tennis, they like hiking. If they like those things, you can now sell feature benefits of the home. You can say, hey, I saw on LinkedIn you're into gardening. Before you leave, you have to see this amazing upgrade. And I'm just making scenarios, but the key thing is, while they're in the home, you can learn a few more things that may bridge that relationship a lot faster.
Yeah.
Okay, can you, Brian, put those people, let's say, I've got one of my clients, he farms 1,200 people, a mail route of 1,200. And can you save that as a certain group?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have a safe cert. You'd want to. You'd have to massage it a little bit. There is some heavy lifting to do when you start getting into that. What I would recommend he do or she do is that if they go take the 1,200 list one at a time, if they find the profile, they want to save the profile as a PDF. So save every profile that they find in the farm, and then put that farm in a folder under Birmingham Farm, and then the next one. That's the best way to do it. Otherwise, you'll get lost with all the leads.
Okay. I like it. So, but with that being said, then you could do special kind of blog post on LinkedIn or special post about that neighborhood. That would be.
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because what I found is
first thing, like Brian, once you start finding profiles, can you create almost like a Facebook list? Can you create like a list or a certain group? Not that they're in a LinkedIn group, but just a group of contacts or connections that you have. Maybe once you find someone's profile, you just click something and it adds them to a specific group or a saved search or something like that. Does that work?
Well, you have to be connected to them. I mean, you can follow. You can tag people as a CRM, which is we'll get into that
right,
as far as. Yeah, so you can use LinkedIn and tag people under a certain category. So if you and I were connected, or we are, I could add you under my, under that farm name, and I can pull you up with that tag. But if you're not connected to them, it limits your ability. So the truth is first find out how many people are on LinkedIn in that farm, and then start connecting to them. Then tag them would be the best way to go.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay. Yeah, because I do remember that. So once you're connected with them and you make those, which is a great excuse to call, first of all. So you call them, introduce yourself, let them know that you work in the neighborhoods a lot. Hey, we just had a home that just sold. Do you mind if I keep in touch? I notice you have a LinkedIn profile. I'm really active on LinkedIn. Do you mind if I send you a connection request? That's
perfect.
Nobody's going to say no to that. They might say no to can I set you up on an email drip for a one home like the new listings or whatever, but nobody's going to say no to a connection request. So that's really interesting. Then you can tag them as X neighborhood, right? You just type it in.
And we can, Right, and I can tag you as a prospect in a particular neighborhood who plays golf. So I can give you multiple tags depending on what it is you're doing. So awesome. You can label as much as you want. So
and then if it's a smaller group, like if it's your referral network and stuff, like one thing I can see you using it, like say you run across an especially interesting article that is going to be of interest to most of your people that are kind of in your referral network, whether it's like a local real estate article, or just like how to scale up a small service business or something like that, like something that applies to virtually everyone in your referral network. I can see like just pulling up that list and just putting together a little stock note and with the link and said, hey, I just ran across this today, made me think of you, I thought you might enjoy it, here's the link, and then you just like dash those messages off to everyone in your referral network.
That's correct, right, exactly. So yeah, the more tags you have, the better off you are, which in sense also makes the more interest you have in your profile, the better off you are too, because other people are looking for people who like the same thing. So really get personal. That's the difference between Facebook and LinkedIn. Everyone thinks it's a get a job, stuffy resume site. The secret to success on LinkedIn is to pretend you're on Facebook, except don't post any pictures of your dogs and different things like that, but use it from a sales strategy, not social media, but act like you're on Facebook, because that's people, their natural state is Facebook, where LinkedIn they actually put on this business shield and pretend to be this other person. But the truth is the people doing business with you are also the Facebook people because they know, like, and trust you. So now bring that over into LinkedIn and let that show through as you're transparent across the board. I'm no different right now on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So that's the key ingredient right there.
Cool. Very cool.
On as far as that goes, the farming.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the endorsements a little bit in terms of like how you connect with someone, and then what you're doing with them with the endorsements once you're connected with them, because this was really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, interesting, and it's a phenomenon in itself, because really, in my opinion, they don't mean anything. Because you're getting endorsed for skills from people you don't know, saying you're good at something, and they've never worked with you. So the validity of an endorsement is really, let's be real. It's not. There's always an upside to everything. So it's
That's
like,
too bad. You endorsed me for podcasting, so now I'm deeply offended.
Well, okay, all right. Well, you're great at that. So that's a recommendation. If I write a recommendation, that holds a lot more weight. Because a recommendation.
We'll talk about. All right. So first of all, for those that don't know, what's the difference between the two?
An file and endorse you for a skill. A recommendation, I have to actually go into my LinkedIn and write up a testimonial about working with you and send that off to you, and you approve it to be added to your profile. So the endorsement takes no effort. It's literally a click of the mouse, and you move on and go on your way. Gotcha. However, the key to endorsements, like the magic number for connections is 500 plus. In endorsements, it's 99 plus. Now, LinkedIn will give you the ability to have 50 skills on your profile. So anyone that works with me, I tell them to bring it down to 15. So I only want you to put your top 15 skills down. Reason we do this is because if you only have 15 skills, that's all I can endorse you for. If you have 50 skills, you're this Y, which means you're never going to get to 99 plus in any of those areas because you're spread too thin. Condense your skills so you'll be 99 plus, which makes you by nature an expert, because when people see 99 plus in real estate versus your competitor who has 3 people in real estate, that's when the numbers start to matter, when you're comparing apples to apples, right? Now, if I said I was a LinkedIn guru and you went on my LinkedIn profile and I had 3 people that endorsed me for LinkedIn, how comfortable would you feel of me saying that I can help you with your business? If I said I'm an executive coach and 5 people endorsed me for that, you're like, I don't really know. But if I was 99 plus all the way down, you're going to it starts to level up and say, hey, he's good at what he does.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we limit ours, but we want everybody else to have 50.
Right.
All right.
So don't let that secret out.
So
right.
Because I feel like my endorsements send mixed messages. Okay, so obviously I must have 50 showing. Mm-hmm. So I can go in though and remove, because I'll have people, they'll endorse me for first-time buyers. Well, I've been.
How long has it been, Jenny, since you helped a first-time home buyer?
Well, I help first-time home buyers every day. However, one is buying one of my properties I'm flipping next week. However, I've been a real estate coach for 7 years. So that's a mixed message, right? That I get a lot of. So I can go in and delete the first-time homebuyer stuff.
Yeah, I would delete that, and don't be attached to losing those numbers, because they will come back very quickly. So, and in your example, instead of coaching, I would actually put in real estate coaching. real estate mentoring, because the reason is you get the word real estate in a keyword search now. So everything you do is
like small business coaching. If you wanted to branch out, Jenny, it'd be like small business coaching, mortgage lender coaching. Yeah.
right,
And
real
that,
estate coaching.
Yeah.
what I find is more lenders really connect with me on LinkedIn than anything.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's because of I have a small percentage of lenders as my clients, but they've had such great successes that I don't know if that's why, or if it's just because there are just more mortgage people that know how to use LinkedIn really well.
I would suspect it's probably
a
number
little
two.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
They're pretty savvy on that.
Yeah, because
now.
I told you this, Brian. Like, it's real estate seems to be, well, for whatever reason, we gravitate and everything gets done on Facebook, and then we ignore LinkedIn, and then other industries are much, much, much savvier at using, which is why I went to the training to begin with, because I'm doing things in podcasting in other industries, and I find that they're much more active, and then the expectation in return is that I'm therefore much more active on LinkedIn if I want to deal with other industries. So within real estate, we all want to do everything through Facebook, but everybody else is going, hey, why aren't you on LinkedIn? You know?
Right, right. Yeah, LinkedIn gets a faster response as well, too. What's great about the endorsements, too, so once you've decided what your skills are, then I have two games that I play, and one is called the random endorsement game, and the second one is the specific endorsement game. So what you'll notice is if I were to click on Matt's profile, it'll automatically say, does Matt have these 4 skills? And I'll click this yellow button that says endorse. Next thing that happens is LinkedIn will start pulling all of my contacts and asking me, does Jenny know about this? Does Brian know about this? And I'll just start hitting yes, 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 yes. So what I have people do is I have them endorse 50 people per day. It takes a minute and a half to do that. But when you endorse people, it actually will notify them on their LinkedIn telling them that Brian just endorsed you for a skill. So I get a top-of-mind awareness for about half a second. In addition, a lot of people have their accounts linked up to LinkedIn, which means it'll push to Gmail. So you'll go on LinkedIn and say, Brian endorsed you for a skill, then you'll get on your Gmail account and say, Brian endorsed you on LinkedIn. So I'm getting a 2-for-1 brain impression for that free half a second of work. So that's called a random endorsement. I can do 50 a day. You do the math, times 5 days, times 4 weeks, times 52 weeks. How many free contacts could that be for you? Which means is your name is popping up in someone's head that many times per year, and it could be right place, right time. It costs you nothing. So those are our random endorsements. Now, the drip campaign, so as Matt mentioned, after I connect with somebody, the first thing I do is endorse them for 1 skill. So that's my way of saying thanks for the connection. I'll endorse you, get you on your radar, get on your radar. And you'll notice the endorsements, they go 1 through 50. So my first endorsement is always the top skill because my picture will be right there. And then the following week, I've labeled Matt under my tag as an endorsement game. So week 2, it's Monday, it's in my calendar to do my endorsements for the week, so I go to Matt's profile, endorse him for skill number 2. He gets another notification. Week 3, skill number 3. So I have up to 50 weeks that every Monday, Matt is getting 2 notifications in his email and LinkedIn that Brian Traichel endorsed him. So after 50 weeks, he's going to at least know what I do for a living. And how many of you have heard the story where the realtor walks into a room and asks their friend they haven't seen for a while how they're doing, and they say, great, we just bought a new home. and they're asking themselves, well, how come you didn't pick me? Well, it's because I wasn't on your radar. You fell off the grid. You lost touch with me. So I know that not everyone has a fail-proof CRM that it constantly sends messages out to their past clients, but if you're connected on LinkedIn, that endorsement can be a lifeline. It can save your lifeline in a relationship because, at least subconsciously, they are hearing from you. And it's a great way to get back on people's radar. So let's say, Matt, you and I haven't talked for 6 years. I'm like, geez, I really want to get reacquainted with you and Jenny, but I feel a little uncomfortable. I don't really want to make a call right now. So I'm going to gently endorse you and say something nice about you so that way I can start building my credibility back with you to finally pick up the call. And after week 3, like, oh, hey, Brian, you've been endorsing me for a couple weeks. I appreciate that. Now I'm on better graces with you to have a conversation. So there's so many applications from endorsements to use. I really like using them.
That's so funny that you're using that analogy because recently I've had somebody who acted like a complete jerk. It was somebody that it was a rep with a company that I had to let go.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't doing a good job. I gave them a chance to fix it, and he made it worse. And so I changed companies. And I guess it's been almost a year since that happened, and he's been endorsing me a lot lately. A lot. So I feel that I'll probably be getting a phone call soon because he's warming me up, right?
Right.
That's funny.
Correct. And how are you feeling about that relationship?
Um,
Is he going to get another opportunity to make it better? No.
I think that people show you who they are, and it's up to us to believe them. You know, I'm all about grace for through the moment, and then when I lob it over to you and you ruin it, you ruin your opportunity by just the way that you act and the words that you choose. I don't have to, like you said, I don't have to do business with people like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of agents struggle with
simply
getting back in touch with people, and there's no reason to necessarily feel that way, but they do feel that way. They feel guilty for not keeping in touch. There probably is no animosity, and the other person probably hasn't given you a second thought. And if you called them up out of the blue, they probably wouldn't be bothered by it. They just think, oh, it's been a while, like no big deal. But agents make it a big deal, like, oh, I haven't talked to this person in so long. It's been like 2 years. They probably not realize that person hasn't thought about you, and it doesn't feel. They probably don't even realize it's been 2 years because they don't care. They got their own life. So I like that. Like, if it helps agents psychologically work themselves up to make a phone call, all the better. If it makes you feel better, it warms you up, and it gets you back onto their radar a little bit before you make that phone call or you send an email or whatever the case is. Why not?
No, I agree with Brian that call reluctance is such a huge issue for real estate agents. So if there are other options, like we teach prospecting through text messaging, and this would be just another way to do that without being so scared to pick up the phone and make phone calls. We also teach how to do it using voice broadcasting systems. And it works. Our agents get listing appointments out of that every single time. But I love this because it's almost like calling somebody in your fishing club, somebody in that you ride horses, I just love the way that you approached it. Would you mind mentioning or sharing a tip on posting homes on LinkedIn?
Okay, so posting, when you're talking now, we're into the social media part of the LinkedIn platform.
Yeah.
You have the updates, or you have the posts. Now, in my experience, I've always recommended that a post is to share something that's a moment in time, meaning it's an open house, it's a new listing. You wouldn't want to put it as a post because the post stays with the profile, and I really believe a post should be to educate, to share information about buying a home or the dangers of this or the benefits of this, things that educate, because when you're posting about an open house, you're technically selling. An update is better suited to do it that way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So yeah, I would rather have people do that than using the post feature, because if you post too much and people start saying, well, all they do is post about their open houses, they're not going to follow you anymore. They're not going to really pay attention to what you have to say. But if they can see that you're actually putting articles and information about best practices or whatever it may be, that's great. Status update is for short-term things like a VA workshop or whatever it might be. But I'm at the NAR conference. Any update is great, but don't only use the post to educate.
I like it. Yeah, that's great. Because when you go to your profile, you scroll a little bit down, you see all the posts and stuff like that. You want that to be your credibility and your authority in whatever niche that you're in. So ideally, that's your evergreen content that kind of builds up that authority. So I know, Brian, you've got to run real quick. We only have about 8 minutes left. We can talk a little bit about groups. You can join up to 50, and you can post there. But I really want to give you a chance, Brian, to share the perspective on the recommendations and how you use other people, like the recommendations that they've given other people, to get a sense of their phrasing and use the phrasing when you're on the phone with them, because I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. And I would think we can do it in 8 minutes, so we'll make that possible. So, all right. And again, so one of the interesting thing about LinkedIn, like I said, I've been on it since 2004. I have studied this thing till my eyes were just red. I've pressed every button. I keep looking at it. I'm like, what else can I get? At first, I thought it was the interest. I was like, well, if people tell me they like golf, traveling, cooking, drinking beer, whatever, that was great. And I started using that first. But then I was like, there has to be more. And it dawned on me that maybe no one's reading recommendations. So I looked at recommendations and said, what am I missing here? What information can I get from recommendations? And then it clicked. When I see people giving a recommendation about another professional, what they're actually giving you is an insight into the way that they filter the world and what's important to them, not necessarily what's great about the other person. So I started paying attention to what they were saying. The qualities of that professional were top-notch. And then you start catching key phrases. Some people will put in, with Matt was a no-brainer. That's their own lingo, no-brainer. So if I was going to sell to you, I'm like, well, if we're looking to do this on your house and take this listing, it would be a no-brainer for someone to do this. All of a sudden, your subconscious starts picking up on your own language patterns, and you start asking yourself, I really like this guy. I don't know why, but I seem to really. Now, that's where it can. Now the lines can get blurred here, because if you're using heavy NLP and this languaging, it can become manipulative, and I don't want that bad karma. So what I tell people is, hi, Matt. Before we talked or before we met, I went on your profile, and one of the things I always do is I read people's recommendations. And the reason I read your recommendations, it allows me to really understand more about your communication and your patterns and what's important to you. What I can tell from you is that you like people who are dependable, high integrity, strong work ethic, and you like getting the best price. Would you say all those things are correct? And Matt would say, yeah, that's pretty much that describes me. Well, great. Then I'm glad we got that covered, because I want to show you this presentation and why our price is so good, and why we have a dependable staff, and why it's a no-brainer to work with us. So I'm using all of this language, and if I can't get a recommendation that you gave, I read the ones that you've received, because if I don't know you, at least 10 other people are going to tell me what you're like. And a lot of times, between the received and the given columns, the words overlap, and I have what I call my trigger words, which appear on both sides. So I know that those are your core competencies, your core values. And what I do is that my presentation now goes to those core values. So if I find you're into technology, I'm not going to show you the old school flip and tell presentation. I'm going to show you the hottest new app that's going to sell your phone. So I know now what you're going to respond to. Maybe I'm going to use a drone to take a picture, aerial view of your neighborhood. So I get to really get insights. So the exercise could take as much as 10 minutes, and everyone moans and groans that they have to spend 10 extra minutes before they meet with their client. But I will tell you, if you do it, it's going to put $100,000 in your pocket in commissions, because I have over 200 and something recommendations that say so, and that's where I use my recommendations as my reference list. So working for Brian, he used to have a phrase. He says, I'm not in the convincing business. Anytime someone tries to tell me why they should work with me or why I do this, and I say, listen, I'm not going to do that, but what I will do is I'll go to my LinkedIn profile. There's over 200 recommendations. I will provide you with their phone numbers, and you can give them a call to make sure I'm the real deal. And then they say, okay, fine, I believe you, right? But that's the power of the recommendations. So getting recommendations, giving, and understanding how to read them there's a lot of gold in there that people are not paying attention to.
Love it.
So I hope that should sum up a little bit, a very quick overview. But I love recommendations. That's the first thing I look for.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love it.
Psychology of selling.
Correct.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. I'll ask for your recommendation, right?
Exactly.
That's why I have so many, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's the cool thing, get videos and whatnot. But yeah, the recommendations, and the last thing on a recommendation is when I write you a recommendation, Jenny, and you accept it, I'll be the last person to be on your profile. So I'll actually be living on your LinkedIn profile until somebody kicks me down a notch. So I'm going to hang out with all the eyeballs that go on your profile. They're going to see my picture, and they might click on and find me later. So the more recommendations you're on, the more exposure you have on. Think about that. It not only helps you with goodwill, it helps you get more recommendations back, but you occupy space on other people's profiles. And sometimes you can be there for years without being at a top position. So fun stuff.
Ah, that is. So how can people reach you, Brian?
They can search for me on LinkedIn. I'm definitely open to any connection requests that they find me. And Matt and I joked about this. I haven't carried a business card for 3 years. I do it on purpose because it allows me to have a LinkedIn conversation. Because all I'm going to do is you give me your card, I'm going to reach out to you on LinkedIn, or I'm going to connect with you on your mobile device. So that's where I am. I don't even have a website. I only use my LinkedIn for everything because it's a one-stop shop, honestly. I mean, besides other marketing ideas, but if you could only have one presence on the internet, it would be LinkedIn for me.
Love it. All right, and so first of all, it's Brian with an I, and then Traichel, Traichel.
Correct. Yes, it's pronounced awesome. Rachel with a T. Yep.
Perfect. All right. So Jenny, what have you got coming up here that you want to let people know about?
Well, we just finished our second time ever teaching the Certified Home Marketing Expert. So we got several more people the new designation, and just such excellent feedback. We're going to be in Mobile, Alabama on the 24th, which is next week. So I know that the Mobile Association of Realtors sent out information about that today. Super excited about that. And we also launched yesterday our Mastermind 2016 is October 19th. We just emailed yesterday, and we're almost sold out of VIP seats. We have maybe 9 left already. So 70 tickets, bam, quickly.
Awesome.
Yeah, in one day. So now we've got, just making sure that people know that that's available and that they need to register. Our lineup this year is amazing. We've got, and speaking of only having LinkedIn, we have a guy that sold $46 million in volume last year in a small town in Alabama, and no website, no social media presence.
Wow.
All he has is the free profile on Zillow. So I'm super excited that he's one of our speakers, and that's just one of them. So that is coming up, Matt.
Yeah. Okay. So what's besides just the GetARealEstateLife.com? Do you have a special URL where people go for the mastermind?
I do. It's bhammastermind.com.
Perfect.
Yes. So,
all right, guys.
It was such a pleasure to meet you and to learn from you. I'm actually going straight to my LinkedIn profile and fixing some things that need to be have immediate attention that you've just shared with me. So I thank you so much for that, and I'm going to make sure that my clients see this because there is tons of value in the hour that you just spent with us. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. I had a great time too. This was a blast. I really enjoy speaking about it. So nice to meet you too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. We'll be back next month with another edition of 60 Minutes to Six Figures. And until then, make sure to go check out the Mastermind.
Bye, Matt. Thank you.